All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions in business. How do you actually build a winning team? And I'll give you a hint, it's not about luck. It's about having a strategy, a blueprint, and a roadmap. Let's get into it. So let me ask you something. Imagine you've got the next big idea. The funding is there, the product is amazing. What's the one thing, the single factor that will make or break the whole thing? Is it your marketing budget? Your tech? Just think on that for a second. It's your people. Period. It always comes down to having the right people in the right roles at the exact right time. That is the absolute heart of success, and that's what we're going to break down today. Okay, so to get the right people, you first have to deeply understand the work that needs to be done. And this isn't guesswork. It's more like being an architect. We call this the people blueprint, and it's all built on a foundation called job analysis. So what is job analysis, really? Well, the textbook definition is right there. It's a systematic process for gathering info. But think of it like this. You're trying to answer the big questions. What do people actually do? What skills do they really need? What tools are they using? This isn't just a boring list of duties. It's literally the engineering schematic for a role inside your company. Now, here's what's so critical to understand. This one process, it's the bedrock for almost every major thing you do in HR. It dictates who you recruit, how you train them, how you measure their performance, and even how you pay them fairly and legally. Seriously, if you get this part wrong, everything you build on top of it is just standing on shaky ground. Okay, so if job analysis is our blueprint, how do we actually draw it up? Where does the information come from? Well, this is where we have to become investigators, gathering intel on what's really happening on the ground. And just like any good detective, you're not going to rely on a single clue. You've got a whole toolkit of methods, and picking the right one really depends on the job you're looking at and the resources you have. The key thing to see here is that every method has its pros and cons. Interviews, they give you incredible detail, which is perfect for really complex, strategic jobs. But man, are they time-consuming and expensive. Then you have questionnaires. They're awesome because you can send them to hundreds of people. Super cheap and scalable, but you lose all that deep, juicy context. An observation is great for jobs where you can see the work, like on an assembly line, but it's useless for figuring out what a software developer is thinking. So what's the gold standard? It's a strategy called triangulation. You're basically combining methods to get the best of all worlds. You might start broad with a survey to get the numbers, then do a few interviews to get the stories behind the numbers, and maybe even observe to see it all in action. This layered approach gives you a much richer, more accurate picture, and frankly, it's way more defensible if you ever face a legal challenge. So we've got our blueprints for individual jobs. Fantastic. But a company isn't built on a single job, right? It's a whole city. So how do we use these individual blueprints to plan the entire workforce of the future? This is where we shift gears from analysis to what's called human resources planning, or HRP. We're zooming out from the blueprint to the entire roadmap. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Job analysis is all about the present. It asks, what is this person doing right now? Its final product is a job description. Human resources planning, on the other hand, is about the future. It's asking, what kind of people and skills will we need 6 months from now, a year, 5 years? Its output is a big picture strategic plan. You can't have one without the other. And that brings us to the core of HRP, which is forecasting. This is all about looking ahead, trying to anticipate what your business is going to need before it becomes a fire alarm fire. It's about being strategic, not just reactive. At its heart, HRP is really just trying to solve one core problem, bridging the gap. The gap between the team you have today and the team your strategy says you're gonna need tomorrow. It's that simple and, well, that complicated. Let's make this super concrete. Say your company's launching a huge new digital initiative. Your forecasts, your demand, tells you that you'll need 10 skilled digital marketers to pull it off. But when you look internally at your current team, your supply, you realize you only have 7. And boom, there it is. That -3, that is your talent gap. It's not a vague feeling, it's a clear, quantifiable problem that you now have to solve. Finding this number is the whole point of the forecast. Now the real work can begin. So once you've identified that gap, you need a plan of attack, right? HRP isn't just about pointing out the problem. It gives you a framework for actually creating solutions through smart, targeted action plans. Now you've got all these strategic levers you can pull. To close that gap for 3 digital marketers, what's the best play? You could recruit externally, which is fast but usually pretty expensive. Or you could train and upskill some of your current employees. That builds loyalty and it's cheaper, but it takes time. Maybe you outsource it for a bit. There's no single right answer. It's a strategic choice based on your company's budget, timeline, and culture. And really, this all comes back to one core idea. Taking a structured, strategic approach to your people is what elevates HR from being a reactive administrative department to being a proactive strategic partner. It is, without a doubt, the cornerstone of building an organization that can actually win. So, if you only remember one thing from this whole discussion, make it this. Job analysis and HR planning are not just HR paperwork. They are not administrative busy work. When you do them right, they become one of your company's most powerful strategic advantages. Why? Because you're making sure your most valuable asset, your people, is perfectly aligned with your most important goals. You know, this quote really says it all. This entire complex process, from analyzing one little job all the way up to forecasting your entire workforce, it's all about one simple goal: getting the right people with the right skills into the right jobs at the right time. That's the game. And I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. We've just talked all about how to analyze the jobs of today. But with technology like AI and automation completely reshaping entire industries, the very definition of a job is changing. So the real question for you, as the next generation of leaders, is how will these tools and ideas have to evolve so we can plan for and build the winning teams of tomorrow?